All right, cool. Well, we just did a pretty awesome podcast of sorts, and Jeff was nice enough to stick around and do a little bit of a testimonial. Like I said in the podcast, you and I had worked together in the past
Yep.
through MyOdisee, and he did an enrichment program. Then we worked together some other habit formation stuff. Um, but I don't talk about enrichment programs too often. Uh, but I think it would be good to get your opinion on how things went and to get some of the thoughts in your program. So real quickly, I'll just say what it is. So an enrichment program, you have to commit, I say about an hour a day to a task that would probably put yourself outside of your comfort zone
Yep.
or a task that you're not used to doing. And I create it for the individual based on their personality. So if you remember, you had the 16 personalities test, and then
Yep.
you have the MyOdisee introduction. So for you, what that looked like was day one, listen more than talking. Day two, stranger no danger, which means that you had to challenge yourself to talk to people that you don't know.
Yep.
Three was 30 minutes of deep breathing, and I know that one was kind of tough for you. Four, you have body language lingo, where uh, you were thinking about your own body language and trying to read what the other person was saying, not necessarily what verbiage they were using, but what they were doing with their physical body. Number five, and I know the biggest one, was disassociation.
Yep.
On the fifth day, you did disassociation, where you want to put yourself in an emotional piece from the past, and you want to look at it from a third-party perspective, not from your own mind. Uh, the day six was emotional appreciation, and day seven was recap and mindfulness. Before we get started, I also want to say this has now turned in. So you did this. I can look at the date back in January and going into February.
Wow.
Yeah, so time flies when you're having fun, right?
Holy crap.
But what it's turned into now, and what it was then, but how I kind of phrase it, is this is like the boot camp into the habit formation.
Mm-hmm.
This is where we find out what really gives you issues. Like you think that you know that you have these issues, just like you thought that you had things that you had to work through in the PCT, but then when you get out there, you feel different things.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily you could have had those issues.
Yeah.
Then there's also these other things, and when you go through this enrichment program, this 7-day boot camp of a thing, it opens some doors that you never would have thought about. So now that I've given that description, what jumps out at you as like a big thing, or what would you say about the program in general?
Yeah, first off, I just having the opportunity to participate in this program was actually, it helped me through a lot of different things at the time. So thinking back to earlier in the year when I did the program, I was really at a tough spot, and I was struggling to make rent and pay the bills, and just dealing with a lot of stress from not actually knowing that I was going to be shutting my business down, but having I was just in a tough spot. So working with Josh and his company and going through this program was like therapy for me almost. And because I knew, I knew I needed to work on myself, and I was a direct reflection of what was going on in my business and my actions and my habits and my decisions. So, personal development was on the forefront of everything that I have been working on for the past, year and a half, 2 years. And the tools that I learned from the enrichment program really helped to set me up for the next following months that happened as I was shutting down my business. Because I think if I didn't have, or if I wouldn't have gone through that process of accomplishing all these tasks and getting me outside my box, that I would have struggled a lot more than if I wouldn't have gone through the program. And I took a lot of that, what I learned, and took it with me on the trail, so that I had those habits continuing on, and was very cognizant of things that I learned to want to learn that and continue it on in my life as I move forward. And I think compared to other things that I've done, seminars I've taken or classes I've took, they weren't as powerful as the one that, going through the programs that you put me through. And you were hands-on. I mean, you pushed me how I needed to be pushed, and you stayed on me, but you were also, you gave me room to be able to work within my program that made it fit to me, and I really appreciated that. And you gave me an objective and something that I needed to accomplish, which for me at the time was very difficult because time was the thing that I felt I didn't have. And to set aside an hour a day to work on me when I had all these other issues going on that I felt like I needed to, that took priority. It was difficult to set that aside and work on this. But after I started it, I was like, this is really cool. Like, I really enjoyed doing this. So I made the commitment to actually doing that. And I wanted to do it, so I then made that a priority. And I think if I would have just done it to do it, I wouldn't have gained the perspective and gained, through that experience, it wouldn't have changed me. And the objectives, each of those that you just described were specific to me, and having that as a template, you didn't necessarily give me like exact details of everything that you needed to do. I kind of created my own, and which for me and my personality, I needed that. And I even reorganized everything, added my description, like all the anal stuff that we all do, like that's important to me to make that program mine, and you were okay with that. And so that gave me ownership of everything that I was doing and helped me, almost understand that objective a lot better, and gave me the opportunity to give it my all, because I felt like it was mine then.
Well, you were extraordinary in that you really took ownership of it. Day 5, disassociation. You did something that I did not expect, and also that's a very rare one that I would work with, because you need a certain cognitive level to understand what disassociation would be. Yeah. You have to be aware of a lot of things. I thought, having known you and worked with you a little bit in the past before that, I thought that you could handle it, and you didn't just handle it. You put it into a new realm that I did. I was like, holy shit. So if you wouldn't mind, just real quick, in one of the Enrichment Day challenges, this association, do you remember what you did? And how you did?
I remember it to a T. And leading up to that, I really didn't know too much about it. I didn't. I actually had to do a little bit of research to, and I even asked you some questions about it. And so in my head and leading up to that, I was preparing to do this experience because it really took a laser focused attention that I needed to put into me. And so I needed to work through these distractions and prepare my mindset to sit and disassociate. And I remember the day. I mean, it was the day after the Super Bowl, and I'd gone to just a friend's house, and I ran into a guy from high school, and he went to West Bend East, and he was a couple years ahead of me, and I didn't recognize him at the time, but I didn't remember him from the specific instances where I actually remembered him from running track, and he was on the East track team, and I didn't realize that till the next day. But I invited him out to the 5 a.m. class, which I was teaching the next morning, and he just showed up, and I was like, "Oh, you're here!" Like, you know.
Didn't expect it, yeah.
And then on the mat, I remembered the moment. Like, I remembered him from running track because he wore these like, you know, long maroon socks. So like in my head, I was already practicing disassociation. I was already like thinking about the past in a way that I was able to view, you know. So
A viewer, yes.
yeah. And so, you know, after realizing that and kind of talking about certain things in my life that was going on, like I wanted to continue the conversation. So after class, we went to a coffee shop and we ended up just talking just about a whole bunch of stuff and connected, and it was great. And he had told me about biennial beats, and clients have told me about this before, and you know, I just really wasn't in a position to like actually be intrigued enough to want to check this out. And so downloaded the app and I did a little research about, you know, the sounds and like the different frequencies, and it interested me. So I was like, well, if this is a tool that I can use to help me experience the disassociation better, like why not? Like I'm gonna just check it out. So I got back to the gym and you know, I basically got out my notepad and, you know, the notes and tried to do it outside of my office. And there were, you know, I'd close my eyes and I'd see shadows and lights, and there was music in the background and people talking. And so I tried to do it and I couldn't. Like I failed miserably basically on the couch outside my office. And I was like, you know, tried it for 15 minutes. It didn't work. And so I went into my office, I turned the lights off, I locked my door, and I put on my earphones, and I put on the biennial beats, and I just melted into my seat and really tried to go through the process. And I did it. I was able to accomplish, you know, disassociating myself in the beginning of just standing 10 feet away from me sitting in the chair. And I was able to do that, and then I got a knock on. Came out of this and I was like, oh shit, you know. And so I went to the door, and you know, and my staff, you know, she was like, oh, I didn't know, I saw your car, but I didn't know you were in there. And I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm just meditating. And you know, so I went back to my chair and I set an alarm because I knew this was a very powerful thing that I needed to do, and I didn't want to go deep and like not wake up. I knew I would eventually wake up, but like I didn't want to go so far deep and like, you know, 10 hours go by or something. Because I've never experienced that.
Right. You didn't know.
I didn't know. So I set an alarm for I think 30 minutes. I'd already attempted and failed, and then made my first attempt and actually did it. And so there was probably, I don't know, 30 minutes have gone by, right? So I'm warmed up. And so I sit back down in my chair, and you know, I listen to the beats, and I was able to work through the process again and repeat that. And then I started diving into the memories and started diving into, you know, I didn't put a limit. I didn't put any restrictions. I just, whether it was a good or bad memory, whatever memory that came to me, I just took it in and tried to experience that as a viewer, as a person with no intent or judgment.
Yes.
And I even remember having to get out of the way of myself in the memory because there was movement. And specifically for my experience, I remember no auditory. I remember that like I couldn't hear anything, but I remember what was happening, and I remember the experience. Everything was in color, and I just didn't remember actually. I could read the words, but I couldn't hear anything. And so I probably went through, I don't know, 18 come to me, and you know, went through these good and bad experiences, which were really quick. And so even before my alarm went off, I started to fade away. And, it was an out-of-body experience that I had, coming back to, cognizant reality,
Yes.
like consciousness. And it's almost like waking up from a dream, that half sleep feeling that you have, like, am I really sleeping? Am I awake? Am I dead? I started to have all these feelings of like, what is reality? Did these events actually really happen? I was questioning everything. Like, am I dead? Like, I'm sitting there melted in this chair, and as am I visioning? Am I seeing things? Are my eyes actually really open? Because at that point I was moving back into my position in the chair and actually envisioning myself being in the chair. So you're questioning reality, like,
Right.
this is like
Right.
dark in here, and this is what I'm seeing. And so I saw these bodies around me as I was coming to. I don't really specifically know if I was envisioning that or actually, experiencing something, of a spiritual realm. But I saw these bodies around me, and I was questioning that in the sense like, okay, is somebody trying to wake me up?
Right.
Are there people around me? Is this EMT? Like, right. 'Cause it was that powerful that I was like, wow, like I felt it. And so as I came to, I realized that, I was conscious again, and, I had the urge to go and talk to somebody, and I felt really light, like physiologically. I felt grounded, but I also felt the need that when I approached, I talked to 3 people, and I sat. I had to be on the ground. I felt like I was like weighted, but at the same time I felt like I was floating. And so it's just a weird kind of crazy experience to think about as I'm going back. And but after the third person, I was so drained. I felt like I needed to lay down. I everything was so stimulating to me that I had to go home, and I took a nap, and I really felt drained. I felt like I had just done a marathon, and
You were the call that
Yeah.
I got afterwards was so incredible
yeah,
because you took it. I mean, that in any enrichment program or any program in general, I do give people autonomy, like you're saying. Like,
Yeah.
okay, create this; it's yours. You took it to that level where you took away your sight in a dark room. You took away anything you hear, and then you added these beats
yeah,
at a certain frequency. And I mean, you really dove in. And that's when I knew that you were a special guy, that you're like, okay, not only am I going to check this box, but I'm going to fucking check this
Yeah,
box, you know? So, but the wonderment that you had was awesome. Like I said, I
I
don't,
remember the phone call too.
yeah, I do not give that out because
Yeah.
it does take a special type of person, especially, yeah, it just takes a special type of person.
Yeah.
But I thought that you could handle it, and you kicked ass.
Thank you.
And I wanted to make this video kind of short, so I don't want to go through all 7 days or whatever. But I very much appreciate you taking the time now to relive that and give your testimonial and the kind words. And I'm glad that the program was able to help you.
Oh man, tenfold. Like just that whole disassociation experience. I mean, it changed me, and I wanted more of it. I was like, I need to do this again because it was like, but I can't do it for like a month because like how drained I was. I'm very thankful and appreciative, grateful to have participated in the program and had such a great experience in working with you as my coach and You know, just being welcome to, you know, my experience, and the journaling aspect of each objective was very needed, and it helped me relive that experience again and be reflective of it, and which helped again tenfold in the learning process,
Right.
because it solidified my experience, and now I actually had words associated with it,
Right.
and words have meaning. And now, like, having gone through that process with having those tools, when you take words and you put it to your emotions and your experience, it's that much easier to relive it and take it into practice, because, you know, if you do this and then you don't do it again, like, what's the point? Like yeah, you may have had a great experience, but are you actually changing your life? Are you actually taking what you've learned
Right.
and implementing it and, like, executing? And, like, everybody says they want to change their life, but, like, if you don't do it, you're not changing anything.
Right.
Like, you know, you just did something cool.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right.
And to actually change and to do it, you got to live it, you got to be it, and you got to do it every frickin' day. And I get it. It's really hard sometimes to get out of that groove that you created. You got to climb yourself out and, you know, take a walk.
Dude, that should be your
carve
tagline.
carve your own new groove.
Take,
you know.
just take a walk.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, no problem, brother.
I appreciate you.
Sounds good. Thank you.